In what feels like a clearing in the pandemic, we're seeing just how dark it got for many teens. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention this week released findings from a recent survey. They asked nearly 8,000 high school students to share how they felt in 2020 during the height of lockdown. The survey revealed abuse at home. 55% said they were cursed at or verbally insulted by an adult. More than 1 in 10 teens said they were physically abused, and 66% said they found it difficult to complete their schoolwork.
I would say that the study findings were pretty accurate for what we're seeing.
Amy Baker is a social worker on special assignment in the Beaverton School District. She knows teens are suffering.
And I think sometimes we forget that there's a corresponding science of resilience.
She says school staff members cling to that hope as they work to counter the pandemic's lasting effect on students.
Making sure that we provide as many opportunities as possible for connection, for meaningful relationship with positive adults. It's extremely powerful in mitigating the effects of trauma.
The CDC says it's unclear how significant a role the pandemic played in what the survey found, whether the pandemic was directly related to the abuse or if it had been going on before the lockdown. What is clear is not every teen felt the impacts of the pandemic equally. Take depression. The CDC says 45% of high school students reported feeling persistently sad or hopeless, and 1 in 5 had contemplated suicide. But it goes deeper than that. Of gay, lesbian, and bisexual teens surveyed, nearly half said they'd contemplated suicide. That's compared to 14% of heterosexual teens. And gender showed another disparity. More than 1 in 4 girls contemplated suicide. That's twice the rate of boys.
The statistics have always been alarming, and the pandemic has just exacerbated everything.
Emily Moser heads up the Youth Line program at Lines for Life. While COVID case numbers are dropping and kids are back in school, she says the CDC's findings underline an ongoing crisis.
I think we aren't really good to go right now. It's a bigger conversation now, and it's a conversation for everyone.
Youthline volunteers like Galena Simpson are having that conversation with their peers.
That isolation, it was brutal.
When she talks with teens who are struggling, Galena draws on advice she hopes adults will follow too. She calls it staying in the muck.
Let someone tell their story and to sit in the pain that they're experiencing and being able to validate that instead of going straight into problem solving. And the answer, I feel like, is so much more simple than people might think it is, but it really is to listen.
And when adults do that, Galena promises it means something to teens. She knows because they tell her.
They talk about that teacher that checked in on them when they saw that they were going through a really difficult time, or the counselor who reached out to them when they didn't even know anyone was paying attention.
In Southwest Portland, Catherine Cook, KGW News.
And our thanks to Catherine for that important story. If you or someone you know is struggling with thoughts of suicide, you can call this number anytime to be connected with mental health counselors. It's 800-273-8255, or to make it easier to remember, that's 800-273-HELP.